This happened a few months ago. I'm 30 years old, and I took the job at the old cemetery on the edge of town after leading a hectic life in the city. I thought working here would be peaceful. It was quiet, with weeds choking the graves and gravestones leaning askew. I often worked late, drawn to the quiet beauty of the place. I've never stopped thinking about what happened one night. At first, it was just shadows. One evening, while I was cleaning a gravestone, I noticed something flickering between the graves. It was fast, like a darting shape that vanished before I could focus. My heart raced, but I told myself it was probably just a raccoon or something. I went back to work, brushing the dirt off my hands. The air was cool, and the slight chill seemed to whisper something I couldn't quite understand. The next night, I felt like I was being watched. I couldn't shake the feeling. I was raking leaves when I heard soft footsteps behind me. I turned around quickly, but there was nobody there. Just the wind playing tricks, I thought. Still, I couldn't help but shiver. Then there were the whispers. I was kneeling by a broken gravestone, focusing on the task at hand when I heard something calling softly. It sounded like a child's voice, just faint enough for me to question if I actually heard it. I stood up, looking around, but the only reply was silence. My stomach turned. Maybe my mind was just playing games. The following days, I kept hearing that laughter, too. It echoed through the cemetery, bright and cheerful, but in that place, it felt out of place. One evening, I tried to shake it off. I remember saying to myself, it's probably just my imagination. Yet, deep down, I felt a pull toward the whispers and laughter, as if they were guiding me to something hidden, something important. Then came the last night. I was at the center of the cemetery near the huge oak tree. That tree had always intrigued me. As I looked up into its twisted branches, I heard the laughter again, clearer than before. I turned quickly, my heart pounding. I wasn't sure what to expect. I stood there, waiting, almost holding my breath. Then, in the shadows, I saw a figure, a small silhouette behind the gravestones. I gasped. Is anyone there? I called out. The laughter stopped. I felt the air grow heavy. I took a step forward, but I felt rooted to the ground. Silence wrapped around me. I squinted into the darkness, but the figure was gone. I was alone. Or was I? I left that night feeling uneasy. The air felt thick. My skin crawled as I walked to my car. I didn't want to come back. I kept thinking about those whispers, that laughter, and the shape I saw. It haunted me. Days turned into weeks, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Now, even when I drive past, I feel a chill. What was that laughter? What did I see? Part of me craves answers, but another part of me is terrified of finding out. There is something wrong with that place, and I don't think I'll ever understand it. A few weeks had passed since I left the cemetery behind. I tried to get on with my life, but the unease clung to me like a shadow. Nights were the worst. I couldn't sleep, my mind racing every time the wind howled outside. That laughter, those whispers, kept echoing in my head. I tried to distract myself by throwing myself into my new job at a local hardware store. It had its own rhythm, a sort of normalcy. But that old cemetery was a constant itch, a nagging curiosity I couldn't scratch. One Saturday, while I was stocking shelves, I overheard two customers talking. They were old friends, reminiscing about their childhood. One of them mentioned the cemetery, and my ears perked up. You remember the stories about that place? She said. They say it's haunted by a little girl. My heart raced. I waited for more details, desperate to hear the rest. No one really knows what happened to her, the other woman replied. Just that she loved to play there before she you know. I nearly dropped the box of screws I was holding. So, it was a girl. Was that who I had seen? My throat felt tight as I tried to process this. That evening, I found myself standing outside the cemetery gates. The sign read closed after dark, but I felt like I needed to go in. I told myself it wasn't just curiosity, it was a quest for answers. I pushed the gate open and stepped inside. The air was even colder. I hugged my jacket tighter as I walked further in. I felt like I was stepping into a dream, or maybe a nightmare. The moonlight painted the gravestones in ghostly hues, and I could hear the rustle of leaves around me. I made my way to the oak tree. Standing there, I remembered the laughter. "If you're here, show yourself," I called out, my voice trembling. The night was silent at first, but then I heard something, a soft giggle. My heart dropped. I turned quickly, scanning the shadows, but there was no one. I took a few cautious steps back. Maybe it was just my nerves. I called out again, "Who's there?" Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a flicker just like before. This time it lingered a bit longer, a small, blurred figure darting behind the gravestones. My breath hitched. I stepped toward it, straining to see, hoping to catch a glimpse of the child I had heard about. But the figure vanished again, swallowed by the darkness. I felt frustration mix with fear. "Why are you hiding?" I shouted, and in response, I heard that same laughter echoing back, but this time it sounded sad. Before I could process it, the laughter turned into a wail. It pierced through the night like shattered glass. I stumbled back, terror flooding my veins. I turned to run, but I felt something brush against my arm, soft yet chilling. The wail died down, replaced by a chorus of whispers. Then everything went dark. The world around me disappeared, and I was left in utter blackness. Panic surged as I fumbled for my phone, desperate for light. My hands shook as I finally switched on the flashlight, illuminating the cemetery once again. But I was alone. Or so I thought. In the distance, by the oak tree, I saw a set of small footprints leading away from me, disappearing into the shadows. I took a deep breath. I couldn't just leave now. I had to follow, to see where they led. My feet moved forward as I called out into the night, "Wait! I'm here!" But the chilling silence returned, only this time, something felt very wrong. The air felt heavier as I stepped closer to the footprints. Each mark in the dirt sent a shiver down my spine. They looked small, almost delicate, as if they belonged to someone who had long since vanished. I pushed the beam of my flashlight forward, illuminating the ground. The trail twisted away from the oak tree toward a cluster of gravestones. I hesitated. My heart raced. What was drawing me deeper into this eerie place? The memories of the laughter and the whispers bounced around in my head, an unsettling mix that made my stomach churn. Still, I had to know. As I followed the footprints, I noticed the whispers picking up again, floating through the night like a gentle breeze. "Come play with me," they seemed to say, mocking me. Each step felt heavier, but my curiosity dragged me on. I reached the cluster of graves. The moon cast long shadows, making them look even more menacing. Suddenly, a chill raced through me. I recognized the name on one of the stones. It was the same name I had overheard in the hardware store. "The little girl. Is this you?" I whispered, staring at the weathered stone. "Are you here?" My heart thudded in my chest. I scanned the area. The enchanted laughter echoed again, now mingled with something softer, more sorrowful. That's when I saw it. A small, shadowy figure peeked out from behind a gravestone, eyes wide and glinting in the light of my flashlight. Fear gripped me, yet I couldn't look away. "What do you want?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. The figure stepped closer, revealing matted hair and a tattered dress. My breath caught in my throat. This was no ordinary child. The girl's expression was a mix of playfulness and sorrow, and her lips curled into a small smile. But her eyes, they held an emptiness that chilled me to the bone. "Play with me," she said, her voice soft but oddly insistent, as if it wasn't entirely hers. "You can't leave." A wave of dread washed over me. I took a small step back, but the ground crunched beneath me. The girl tilted her head, and the smile faded. "You don't want to play?" "No, yes, I want to know. What happened to you?" The question slipped out before I could stop myself. The playful aura dimmed, replaced by a shadow of pain. Her gaze flickered to the graves surrounding us. "They forgot me," she whispered. "I want to be remembered." I felt a strange pull, as if those words were linked to something beyond the grave. Suddenly, a loud rustling broke the tension. I spun around, nerves on edge. My flashlight shone brightly, but the shadows danced wildly, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something else was watching. What was that? I muttered, heart racing. The girl reached out and pointed toward the woods bordering the cemetery. Look! She urged, urgency filling her voice. I turned my head, and there, in the distance, was a silhouette moving toward us. A figure, tall and indistinct, was emerging from the darkness. The girl's smile vanished completely. You need to run. I didn't need another cue. Panic surged through me, and I bolted, sprinting in the opposite direction. Behind me, I heard laughter again, but this time it was accompanied by more wails, echoing patterns of joy and despair. Bursting through the trees, I glanced back, and to my horror, the silhouette was closer now. I turned my focus forward, desperate to escape whatever was chasing me. I had to get out of there. The memory of the girl and her plea clung to me, but I couldn't afford to think. I needed to survive, to return to safety. Then, just as my feet hit the path leading out, darkness enveloped me again, this time, not from nightfall, but from the shape looming behind me. I faltered, but the memory of those footprints drove me onward. Whatever this was, I had to confront it. I wouldn't let fear dictate my fate. The pounding of my heart echoed in my ears, drowning out the rustling leaves and crackling branches behind me. I raced down the path, the moonlight illuminating my way just enough to keep me from tripping. Every few seconds, I risked a glance over my shoulder, expecting the tall figure to be right on my heels. But each time, all I saw was darkness. As I cleared the edge of the trees, I burst into the open grounds of the cemetery. The atmosphere shifted, becoming more oppressive as I realized I was no longer surrounded by the soft whispers of the girl. Instead, the air crackled with tension. I turned back, feeling the pull of that shadowy presence, but I forced myself to keep moving. I spotted the weathered stone wall that bordered the cemetery. If I could reach it, I might just find a way out. My legs felt like jelly, but I pushed myself forward, urgency fueling my every step. Suddenly, a bone-chilling laugh rang out from behind me. It was distorted, echoing across the grounds, sending an icy wave down my spine. I sprinted faster. The wall closed in, but then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw something flickering in the distance. My curiosity momentarily overcame my fear, and I paused, squinting through the darkness. A single lantern hung from a post a few feet away. Somehow, it didn't seem to belong there. My instinct told me to ignore it, to focus on escape. But a part of me wanted to understand what was happening and why I felt this inexplicable connection to the girl and her plea. I took a hesitant step toward the lantern. That's when I heard footsteps behind me, slow and deliberate. Panic surged anew. I turned and dashed toward the wall, but something stopped me. The echo of laughter returned, but it was different now, sharp, almost mocking. It had a rhythm, as if it were playing games with me. The lantern flickered again. Against my better judgment, I rushed toward it. In the dim light, I noticed the ground beneath it had been disturbed, dirt freshly turned. What was buried there? I knelt, my hands trembling as I brushed aside loose soil. The sound of footsteps had faded, replaced by a suffocating silence. I looked back, half expecting to see the figure looming behind me once more. Instead, there was nothing but shadows. I returned my focus to the patch of earth. Then, I felt a chilling gust of wind that set my hair on edge. The lantern flickered one last time before going out completely. I was plunged into darkness. I scrambled to my feet, panic rising again. Is anyone there? I called out, my voice trembling. Nothing answered. I couldn't stay here. I made for the wall again, my heart racing, desperate to escape this haunted place. Just as I reached out to grab it, a hand clamped down on my shoulder from behind. The grip was cold, unyielding. I spun around, breath hitching in my throat. A familiar little face stared back at me, the girl's empty eyes glowed faintly in the dark. You forgot me, she whispered, and I felt the world around me begin to swirl. I gasped, my instincts screaming to run, but my feet felt rooted in place. The shadows twisted around us, and I knew that whatever magic was at play, everything hinges on what I decided next. Would I confront the darkness or succumb to it? I blinked once, hoping this was a nightmare I could simply wake up from. Instead, the girl remained there, her stillness both haunting and familiar. I felt her calling to me, pleading. Though her words echoed softly, they carried a weight that pressed down on my chest. "Why are you here?" I stammered. It felt ridiculous asking a ghost that question, but I needed some clarity amidst the chaos. The girl tilted her head, mouth twisting into a faint smile. "I need your help." "They are watching us," she said, nodding toward the trees. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, swirling like smoke, and I could almost see shapes moving just beyond the edge of the light. "Who is watching?" I whispered, my voice trembling as fear gripped my throat. I felt like prey. The chilling laughter returned, wrapping around me like a vice. I glanced around, anxiety clawing at my gut. "Trust me," she urged, and in that moment, I wanted to. Something about her presence spoke of urgency, desperation. "They're angry. If you don't come with me, they'll take you too." I hesitated. The strings of fate seemed to tangle tighter with each breath. Just then, the lantern flared back to life, the faint glow illuminating the hope in her eyes. "Follow," she insisted, pulling me lightly away from the wall. I could still hear the mocking laughter echoing in the distance, but it sounded fainter now. Panic consumed me, but so did curiosity. "Where are we going?" "To the hidden place," she said cryptically as she led me along a narrow path weaving deeper into the cemetery. The trees leaned closer, as if eavesdropping. "It's safe there." As we moved, the oppressive feeling lifted slightly. Yet every instinct in me screamed to turn back, to escape entirely. Time slipped away, and suddenly the laughter transformed into cry sounds of sorrow and despair. I thought I might be going mad. "What's happening?" I asked, my voice edged with fear and confusion. "They're trying to call for help, like I was. They're trapped." The words rolled from her lips with an odd heaviness. "We must hurry." Before I could even register the implications of her confession, we reached a small clearing. It seemed untouched, as if frozen in time. Moonlight bathed the area in a silver glow. At the center lay a large, granite stone, engraved with names I couldn't make sense of. Dried flowers lay scattered, remnants of rituals long forgotten. "What is this place?" I breathed, feeling the gravity of the moment. The energy swirled, a tangible force that set every nerve alight. "The time is near," the girl said, her voice wavering. "They want to come back. We have to stop them." Suddenly, my heart dropped as the shadows thickened again. Faces emerged from the darkness, their features shadowy and indistinct, but their intentions were unmistakable. I backed away, my pulse racing. Then I realized I wasn't just a witness now. Whatever they were planning, I was caught in the middle right then. A loud thud reverberated through the clearing, as if the stone itself had trembled. I turned to the girl, fear clawing at my insides. "What comes next?" Before she could answer, the darkness surged, and I knew this was just the beginning. My breath hitched as the darkness crept closer, swirling around us like heavy smoke. The girl stepped back, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. "We need to protect this place," she whispered urgently, glancing at the stone. "What do you mean? Protect it from what?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "They want to break through," she explained, her gaze snapping toward the shadows. "Those trapped souls want freedom, and they think you're the key." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. Before I could process what she meant, a form emerged from the darkness. It was a figure, tall and gaunt, with hollow eyes that seemed to absorb all light. "You should have stayed away," it hissed, voice rasping like dried leaves. The laughter erupted again, echoing off the gravestones. "Stay close to me," the girl shouted, grabbing my wrist. "Don't let them take you." I felt a pull towards the figure, an unnameable attraction mingled with dread. It had a magnetic quality, it wanted something from me. I tried to shake it off but found my feet rooted to the ground. The shadows coiled around the figure, as if forming a cloak. It smiled, revealing sharp, jagged teeth. What do you want? I found my voice through the haze of panic. To be free, it answered, its voice chillingly calm. Join us, and we will show you the truth. Don't listen. It's a trick. The girl shouted as she stepped in front of me. She glared at the figure, her loyalty unwavering. Truth? Or lies? I whispered to myself, uncertainty gnawing at my mind. I began to feel the weight of the granite stone beneath my feet. Its power thrummed, like the heartbeat of the earth itself. Only those who are willing can help us, the figure continued, its eyes gleaming with malice. Imagine leaving this place behind, forgetting all the pain. I could hear the cries intensify, the cacophony of lost souls weaving into a mournful harmony. It was intoxicating, almost mesmerizing. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the sounds, but they seeped into my mind, curling around my thoughts. Don't let them in! The girl pleaded, her grip tightening on my wrist. Seeing her fear broke through the spell the figure had cast over me. The desperation in her eyes reminded me why I was here. I couldn't abandon her. Leave her alone. I yelled, pulling away from the figuresque grasp. Shrugging off the remnants of the trance, I steadied myself. The shadows throbbed in response, growing more restless. Suddenly, a crack split the night air as a surge of energy radiated from the stone. I felt the ground shift beneath me, and the girl stumbled back. What is happening? She gasped. I don't know. I shouted, but something primal was awakening behind the inscriptions on that stone. The engraved names seemed to glow, illuminating the clearing, and the figures lurking in the shadows began to writhe. Then, just as abruptly, everything went dark. The silence was deafening, panic clawed at my throat as I flicked my eyes around, searching for the girl, or God help me, the looming figure. In the pitch blackness, I stood frozen, heart racing. I couldn't feel her presence anymore. Where are you? I called out into the void, dread creeping into my voice. But all I heard was a whispered chant rising from the shadows. Then I felt something cold brush against my shoulder, and my pulse skyrocketed. I had to get out. I stumbled forward, heart hammering in my chest. The darkness pressed in around me, thick and suffocating. Blindly, I reached out, hoping to find something solid, something real. My fingers grazed a rough surface, a gravestone. I gripped it tightly, grounding myself. Where are you? I called again, my voice shaky. Silence hung heavy in the air, but I could still hear the faint whispers lurking just beyond my reach. They twisted around me, pulling at my thoughts. Focus, I told myself. You can't get lost in this. But as I stood there, the urge to follow the voices grew stronger. I could almost make out fragments of words, rising and falling like a haunting lullaby. Help us. Free us, no. I spat, shaking my head as if that could rid me of their influence. I had to find the girl. I couldn't let her face this alone. I took a deep breath and pushed away from the gravestone. The air felt electric, buzzing against my skin. I forced myself to move, each step deliberate. I had to reach the edge of the clearing, find the light, and keep the encroaching shadows at bay. Suddenly, the whispers shifted. Not all will survive. That gave me pause. I froze, breath caught. What do you mean? But the responses came only as cold laughter, echoing ominously in the dark. It sent a chill down my spine. My instinct screamed at me to run, to escape while I still could, but the darkness felt alive, wrapping around me like a predator. Then, I heard her voice. Over here. Where? I shouted, relief flooding in. I finally caught sight of her, just a flicker of movement near the stone. I sprinted towards it, almost tripping over unseen roots. Quick! She urged, her voice hoarse. They're coming. I reached her and grabbed her wrist. We need to get to the stone, I said, trying to sound confident. It gave off light. Maybe it can help us. She pulled away slightly, uncertainty clouding her eyes. We can't. It'll only draw them closer. What else do we do? We can't stay here. panic threaded through my words. Then the shadows writhed, and I felt a wave of cold wash over me as the figure re-emerged, eyes glinting like dark stars. "You want to escape?" it crooned, voice rich with malice, drawing nearer. "Join us. Live forever. Run!" The girl screamed, and we bolted into the dense trees beyond the clearing. Branches scratched at our arms and faces, but the sounds of laughter and whispers faded behind us as we pushed deeper into the woods. I stole a glance back, desperation clawing at my heart. The girl was beside me, her eyes wide and filled with dread as the shadows danced just outside the trees. I could feel the lingering pull of the figure as if it was reaching out for me, but one thing became clear as we ran: the escape wouldn't come easily. We might have outrun that darkness for now, but it wouldn't stop. Whatever forces were haunting this place had latched onto us. And I could feel them waiting just beyond the edge of the unknown. I didn't stop running until my lungs burned and my legs felt ready to give out. Branches twisted above us, blocking any hint of moonlight. I could barely see the girl next to me, just a shadow racing through the shadows. "Where do we go?" I shouted, trying to make sense of the disorienting thicket around us. "I don't know," she gasped. "Just keep moving." We darted left and right, trying to weave through the trees, but the whispers were back more insistent now, like an echo that crawled beneath my skin. I was afraid that if I listened too closely, I might start to understand their chilling message. Then, out of nowhere, I stumbled over a root and fell hard against the forest floor. The breath rushed from my lungs. Pain shot through my knee, and I groaned. "Get up!" the girl cried, urgency lacing her voice. "They're coming!" I pushed myself to my feet, shaking my head to clear the fog. Before I could take a step, I saw something luminous ahead. A faint glow flickered between the trees. "Do you see that?" I asked, pointing. "Yes, let us go," she urged, already moving towards it. We hurried toward the light, and I could feel the shadows clawing at my back, as if they were desperate to drag me down into whatever horrors lurked just beyond. As we reached the edge of a small clearing, the light revealed itself a headstone, its surface shimmering like a beacon in the night. It was unlike the others. The symbols carved into it pulsed gently, illuminating the air around us. "What is that?" I whispered, but before she could answer, the shadows swarmed in. I could see them creeping closer, where the trees seemed to bend and bow under their weight. My heart raced anew. "Stand behind me!" I shouted, pulling her close. "The headstone might offer some protection. I won't let them take you." The girl quivered as she leaned against the stone. I could feel her tension through the air. "I think it's trying to tell us something," she murmured, eyes fixed on the glowing symbols. "Tell us what?" I looked back at the darkness, still swirling and shifting. The whispers grew louder, almost drowning out my thoughts. "Free us, join us, no!" I shouted, clenching my fists at my sides. "We won't join you." Suddenly, a voice, deep and commanding, rose above the chorus of whispers. "You can't resist. You are already chosen." My breath hitched painfully. Chosen for what? The light of the headstone flickered. It seemed to pulse in rhythm with the darkness, a heartbeat of its own. I felt a pull, a call from the stone that was impossible to ignore. "I think it wants us to understand," I said, unwillingly drawn closer, but in that moment, everything shifted. The shadows erupted around us, a tide of darkness crashing into the light. I felt a sense of overwhelming dread, one that chilled me to the bone. "Run again!" I shouted, but this time, my voice barely made it through the chaos. As we turned to flee, something cold wrapped around my ankle, pulling me down into the earth. "Help!" I screamed, unable to break free. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was the girl's face, filled with terror, as she reached out to me, her hand slipping further away. I didn't know if I'd see her again, and that was when everything froze. My eyes shot open, but there was only darkness. Thick, choking darkness. I was lying flat on something damp and cold. Panic squeezed my chest. I started to push myself up, feeling the weight of the earth around me. It was suffocating. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice echoing in the void. Silence answered. I could only hear my own heartbeat thudding in my ears. It took a moment for my senses to clear. The air felt different, still and stifling, like the calm before a storm. Where was the girl? Had she made it out? I forced my shaking hands to grip the ground. I needed to move. I dug my fingers into the soft earth, pulling myself up. With a sudden jolt, I broke through the surface. Light blasted into my eyes, and I squinted, shielding my face. I was back in the clearing. But it felt wrong. The headstone was gone. Only the dirt lay disturbed where it had stood, a gaping hole, like a wound in the earth. I scrambled to my feet, scanning my surroundings. The trees seemed twisted, gnarled, as if they were watching me. The whispers were gone, replaced by an oppressive silence. Hello? I shouted, but my voice felt weak, hollow. Where was she? Then I heard a faint rustling from the underbrush. My heart leaped. Are you there? I called, taking tentative steps towards the sound. Each crunch of leaves under my foot echoed around me, stretching the silence even thinner. Suddenly, the shriek of a crow pierced the quiet, followed by another rustle. I froze, adrenaline surging through me. If you're there, show yourself. I demanded, but the forest remained still, only the crow hauntingly caught above me. There was no answer, but I caught a glimpse of movement from the corner of my eye. A shadow darted between the trees. I turned sharply, my breath quickening. Wait! I called, instinctively pursuing the figure, desperate for company, for assurance that I wasn't alone. I weaved through the trees, branches swiping at my face. The shadow slipped away, always just out of reach. Stop! I yelled, frustration bubbling inside me. My knee throbbed as I pushed harder. Then, I stumbled upon a clearing. I gasped. It was a small graveyard, overgrown and forgotten, with weathered stones tilted at strange angles. My heart sank at the sight of grave markers, some cracked and others entirely toppled. I turned around, hoping to find the girl at my back. But instead, the shadows danced along the edges of the graveyard, creeping, coiling like snakes ready to strike. Where are you? I croaked out, feeling more trapped with each moment that passed. That's when I saw it. A flicker of light appeared at the far end of the graveyard, close to a massive oak tree, its branches sprawling across the sky. It glimmered like the headstone but had an unsettling glow. My instincts screamed at me to run. Don't go toward it. A voice warned. It was a raspy whisper coming from the trees. I turned, breath caught in my throat. Who's there? The shadows parted, and out stumbled the girl, her face streaked with dirt, eyes wide with fear. Relief flooded through me. You found me, she said, a tremor in her voice, but before I could answer, I felt that the ground beneath us vibrated, a low hum that sent ripples through the air. The shadows lurked closer now, the whispers returning, calling out for something I couldn't comprehend. And when I looked back at the flickering light, I realized, it wasn't just a beacon. Something ancient and dark was waking. Run! I shouted, grabbing her hand, feeling the urgency spike through my veins. But the ground shook again, and I could sense the malevolent presence lingering just behind us, ready to make its claim. We sprinted, the shadows looming ever closer, their whispers swelling into a chilling chorus that echoed in our minds. What did they want? I yelled, glancing at the girl beside me as we dashed toward the edge of the graveyard. What's happening? They want to be free. She shouted back, her voice barely cutting through the mounting chaos. They think they can use us. My heart raced, dread coursing through me. Who were they? The wind picked up, rustling the withered leaves overhead, carrying with it a bitter cold that seemed to sap the warmth from my body. I could feel the shadows crawling at our heels, almost reaching out, coiling around my ankles as if eager to pull us back into their darkness. Then we can't let them. I yelled, determination flooding me. We have to get out of here now. Together, we tore through the graveyard, weaving through the crooked stones and dodging branches that seemed eager to snag our clothes. Just ahead lay a narrow path edged by thick brush. In my gut, I sensed that it might lead us away from whatever clutches of night sought us. Here! I pointed toward the path, and she nodded, her face a mask of urgency and fear. As we veered onto it, I felt the vibrations underfoot intensify, the very earth trembling in response to the awakening darkness behind us. "Keep moving," I urged, but every ounce of courage was needed just to keep running through the shadows that clawed at our backs. I could almost feel them, hot breath-like whispers threading through my thoughts. "You can't escape," they hissed, but I pushed it all aside, determined to break free as something big crashed behind us, and I couldn't help but glance back. That was a mistake. From the depths of the graveyard surged the dark figure, tall and twisted, risen from the very earth itself. It aimed straight for us, eyes gleaming like two bottomless voids. My stomach dropped, panic surged through every fiber of my being. "Faster!" I cried as we tore down the path. The shadows flared around us, dark tendrils racing to possess us, but something shifted in the airlight. I gasped as it spilled forth from the path ahead. It felt like a fragile shield, a barrier formed by the very essence of hope. "Look!" the girl shouted, pointing toward the opening that led into the trees ahead. "The light!" We barreled toward it, feet pounding against the ground. It was a glimmer, a promise of safety. I didn't dare look back, the laughter had morphed into wails, resonating like a death knell behind us. But instinct screamed the moment we stepped into that light, we had to believe it was our salvation. Just as we neared the threshold, a cold grip tightened around my wrist. I was jerked back, the shadows converging, pulling us away from the bright warmth ahead. Terror washed through me as I and the girl skidded to a halt. I could almost feel the darkness seeping into my bones, trying to suffocate any semblance of light within. "Hold on!" she screamed, desperation lacing her words. I clung to her as the darkness pressed in, clawing like icy fingers, but then something within me ignited a fierce light pushing against the encroaching shadows. I fought against the pull, our intertwined hands radiating warmth against the cold. "Remember!" I shouted. "We're not alone." I channeled every ounce of will I had left, calling to the spirits lingering in the shadows, those forgotten souls that the girl had spoken of. Suddenly, a wave of energy surged around us, a ripple of light as if the earth itself responded to our plea. And then, just like that, everything exploded in brilliant light. It shattered the darkness gripping us, sending the shadows howling back. I felt my feet leave the ground as we were propelled into the sphere of light, a blinding glow enveloping us in warmth. With one final scream of rage, the figure recoiled, and time seemed to slow. The path narrowed, swirling beyond our grasp. I felt the girl's hand slip away from mine, the brightness threatening to consume us both. Instinct kicked in, the heaviness threatened to drag me back, to surrender to the shadows, but I wouldn't give in. In that moment of clarity, I reached for her, my heart pounding. A final burst of strength propelled me forward, and I plunged into the light, desperately trying to take her with me. A blinding flash enveloped us both, and in an instant, there was nothing. It felt as if the entire world around us ceased to exist, the shadows vanished. Then, the brightness faded as if someone had dimmed a switch, and I collapsed onto cold earth. I mewed softly as my body met the ground, shivering under the warmth of the fading light. I blinked, the cacophony of whispers replaced by the soft, hesitant rustle of leaves above. My breath came in heavy gasps as I sat up, heart racing against the eerie calm surrounding me. But she wasn't there. The girl was gone. Panic clotted me as I felt for her presence, a deep-seated ache settling in my chest. "Where are you?" I called, desperate for an answer, a sign. Silence stretched in response. Was it over? Were we truly safe? I stood cautiously, scanning the serene surroundings. Was this merely a different pocket of the same darkness? Even if we'd escaped by the skin of our teeth, questions lingered in the air, a chill that wouldn't leave me. I wouldn't be surprised if the whispers followed me, if the shadows persisted just outside my vision. As I turned toward the trees, something flickered among the undergrowth. I took a hesitant step forward, unsure of what I would find. Would it be her? Or would it be something infinitely darker? I still think about that night sometimes. I moved to a different town shortly after. I never returned to the cemetery, but can still hear the distant laughter in my dreams, childlike and haunting, echoing with questions that might remain unanswered forever. I often wonder if I'll ever see her again, or if the darkness still lingers, waiting for its chance to reclaim what was lost.